Hello and welcome, everybody. It's a new season and a new theme and a conversation that truly matters, like we already said. So this season, we're talking about nursing allyship. It's not a buzzword. We all know that, right? And it's not a one-day celebration, like we all know, but it's action, advocacy, yeah, and leadership. And when we're looking at a list of allies who have helped shape nursing in the country, we could think of few people, and the person who are going to call on the show today as a guest is somebody who has influenced the outcomes for nursing, who has experienced nursing leadership firsthand. And a lot of his LinkedIn posts do tell us that he's working um, in partnership with nursing and thinks that nursing is not just a simple investment, but a very, very strategic investment. It's my pleasure to invite Mr. Biju Nair, Regional CEO of Care Hospitals, to the show. Welcome, Biju. It's wonderful to have you on our show.
Thank you so much, Pearl. I have also watched a few of your podcasts and really impressed by the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Biju. So, without further ado, let's just hit it and start with our line of questions that I feel probably are very relevant to be answered and known, and understand how nursing allyship is, working and how is it in action. So, let's go back, to the very start of your journey in healthcare. Now, when you think of your early days in healthcare, what did you believe nursing was all about, and how has this understanding about nursing changed over the period of time?
So I came into healthcare around 2011, and I came into Fortis then in one of the hospitals in Mumbai. And my understanding broadly was from the vantage of a marketing person, who is into the industry new, figuring out his own space, and therefore I thought nursing is an operationally important role to support the doctors. This was my plain understanding. Now that I have moved a decade and a half into the industry, assumed several leadership positions, and moved across certain important brands in the industry, I would like to rephrase that simplistic statement to something like, nursing is the backbone for patient safety, and possibly the singular most important mirror of compassion that a hospital could demonstrate to its patients, and therefore a very, very critical role.
So yeah, I like that mirror of compassion, and probably sometimes that whole compassion gets us into trouble. Sometimes I feel we're too compassionate, is what I feel sometimes. But yeah, many thanks for giving the change of perspective that you have had over the period of time. So going back to some of the experiences that you had, was there any defining moment in your career where which sort of changed your perspective about nursing and helped you to see nursing very differently? Because beyond the stereotype of, a nurse with a syringe, administering medications, I'm sure you watched nurses at close quarters. I'm sure you had an understanding of nursing is beyond all of this. Nursing is in the boardroom as well. So what was that one defining moment that helped you see nursing very differently?
See, it's a journey, right? And then you need to appreciate a lot of key personalities and also situations. That gathering of understanding or the depth of understanding of nursing is Dr. Jyoti Clara. She used to be my colleague for close to 8 years at Gleneagles, India. I was the head of sales and marketing at the corporate office, and she used to be the head of nursing. And as a person, she is extremely grounded. I know y'all both know each other. She's extremely grounded, very future focused personality, and uncompromising in her ways of dealing with nursing, extreme dignity, standards. That's how I can place her. And when you work with a colleague like that, you tend to look at the entire profession with the same paint, isn't it? You look at everybody as Jyoti Clara. So therefore everything shines, everybody shines when you look at it that way. And if not today, then maybe young nurses would shine like her. That's how I look at it. When it comes to a particular incident which changed my entire outlook to nursing, I would give credit once again to Clara for partnering with me in 2016 to host a strategic nursing summit with the HPI. This was a vision sort of a platform where, she and AHPI were able to get in a lot of nursing leaders across India. And we deliberated how would nursing look fast forward 20 years from now. And being a support branding person, I thought I'll spend my valuable time understanding what these folks are talking. What I I gather is a very diverse perspective which comes on table, from midwifery to robotics to be a parallel doctor prescribing maybe limited dosage of medication. So many things, so many different important aspects were discussed from various vantages, and that gave me now a very clear. So from 2011 to 16, I was like what I expressed nursing, what I saw. But
Right.
2016 changed everything. Everything, the way I looked at nursing changed with that one conference, which I was patiently able to sit through, attend.
That's lovely. I do remember seeing the video clips of that conference, and it was indeed a conference which covered the whole continuum of what nursing exactly probably does. So thanks for that, reflective piece of how it changed your perspective. Now let's move on to something that you wrote on LinkedIn. That is the first time probably I actually started connecting with you and looking at what pieces you're writing. It sort of impressed me. So that particular piece was called as Expanding Horizons, New Leadership Pathways for Nursing Professionals. And I think it was a 9-post series, I guess. Yeah. And you spoke on how a nurse's frontline experiences offers a very, very unique perspective to drive the change across the healthcare system. Now, you did mention a lot of emerging roles, right? And now you're also a regional COO. Now, which emerging roles do you think are most critical for nurses today to truly support and influence a system level outcome? So, do you have anything in mind that sort of an emerging role?
First, let us set some context. Why did I write what I wrote? So this was a trigger from a ICC National Nursing Conference in
Mhm.
2024, which I attended, and I was not part of the stage, a part of the audience. And with me in the audience were a whole diverse uh, set of nursing leaders from across India. And on the stage were a few administrators like me who were trying to share wisdom on what should nursing technically as a progression from a nursing leader achieve in their journey. And there was a heated argument, absolute division between the stage and the audience. See, I have seen very capable nursing leaders taking on P&L role. Logically, there could be people who would take on operational role and then a P&L role. So that's traditional. What did not come out from the conference is what I commented on in the series. And I still hold, I mean to say, in a year, nothing much has changed. So if you leave the tradition aside and look at the entire nursing fraternity and offer them a platform of creativity, influence driven roles, they would shine. And especially in today's age where you have the AI transformation happening, the fifth industrial revolution, many of the roles I wrote then are still very relevant. For example, a chief wellness officer is still very relevant. A chief product officer is relevant, or innovation officer. It might not happen in a traditional hospital setup, but it will happen in new age industries and product lines and layers of products which will come to service sick care, preventive care, wellness care, all of that. It requires nursing led leaders, because you understand the science of body, you understand the science of care, and therefore your understanding, if it is optimized, if it is taken leverage of, not all nurses could do that, but we all come from different vantages, different interests, right? So let us say one of us could be very kind and therefore could be a chief patient welfare officer. Another person who is very articulate and tech savvy could be informatics director in a firm. So many of these roles are wide open for nurses, is the way I would say. And as nursing leaders, all of you all should go back to nurses and advocate this for them to see jobs from very, very different vantages. Clara, for instance, is today a consultant with 5 different topics. You should talk to her and you'll realize all this is not nursing. It's not nursing.
Yeah. I completely get it, Pitch. But I was just wondering, yes, I mean, there are, as people who, nurse leaders, like, when we evolved and when we sort of broke the stereotypes, right? We also realized that it's not just us, right? That's the reason why allyship. But do you think we will think of these roles, right? We'll advocate for these roles. But do you think we have an ecosystem for these roles in our hospitals? Are our allies ready to give us, are the leaders ready to give us these platforms to, you know, experience these roles? That's something that I always worry about.
I will stand to advocate myself wherever possible and influence. And I think in the hospital ecosystem, things are changing very fast. And you'll see changes hitting us very soon and in large volumes for sure. For just citing an example, yesterday I was in a conversation with a leadership headhunter, and we were talking about a firm in India funded by a foundation getting into a business which is about natural birthing. And they were talking about who should be the next CEO of that firm. My advice was get a nursing leader to be the boss of the firm. And this was just yesterday evening. I mean to say, there will be so many different businesses which again service people. You look at the age of robotics. You would have a robotic care person at home who will not blink, who will take an elder to a washroom without a fall. That doesn't need a human. But who is going to train that robot? Who is going to lead that company, which will be 1,000 robots at home? It could be a nursing leader. So that's how we should look at it, is my understanding.
Fabulous. I'm so glad to hear this, Biju, and somebody who is at a great leadership position. Certainly, there are going to be clips floating around about this particular things that you have said, and I hope it influences other leaders to sort of think likewise. Currently, here when I'm in UK, I do see in my organization itself there are 350 different roles for nurses. Like whatever you mentioned. Why did I relate to that post of yours? Is because some of the positions that you mentioned, I have witnessed that in action here. The Chief Sustainability Officer role, I have seen nurses leading it. I've seen nurses leading the whole the research component, which is why probably UK and Europe is well known for. So I've seen nurses leading that, and that's the reason why it's so much related to that role.
I personally want the nursing leaders also to talk this language, to demand this language, because many of them are talking about how to get into a P&L role, but there's so many roles beyond P&L that can be very attractive, interest driven for the nursing leaders.
That's nice. Now, since you talked about PNL, I'm going to hit it on to the next question. You're correct. You're absolutely right. PNL sometimes sort of attracts us. I remember when I had joined Global Hospital, my CEO, and I had to go and attend a conference, to talk at a conference. And so I messaged him. I said, sir, I have to be at this time for this conference. And I realized that the business review meeting is at the same time. Do you mind if I just walk in a bit late? I'll finish that and I'll come quickly. And he says, I do mind. He said, I do mind that my chief nursing officer is not there for a business review meeting because I want my chief nurse's inputs in that. I wasn't upset when he wrote that. In fact, I felt glad that my CEO wants me on the table where PNL is discussed. That was probably my first exposure to how the whole EBITDA works and how the whole business growth happens. I'm going to about our next question is sort of going to be, on that. So as a regional CEO, you're probably responsible for the EBITDA of the organization, right? And from your perspective, how do nursing outcomes influence EBITDA? Any example that you can probably share of a nursing excellence which has directly impacted the performance financially?
EBITDA is about outcomes. And if you look at nursing outcomes, they have a direct correlation to these numbers, whether it is about reducing the complexity of the cases in the hospital, reduction of the length of stay, building trust. Financially, all of this automatically flows into the EBITDA. And needless to say, the type of care they are taking also reflects into word of mouth, and therefore repeat patients coming from the same family, extended families, and therefore lesser marketing spends. It all impacts EBITDA, as clear as that. Here at Care, let us say the discharge process is owned by the nursing. Now it starts with medical affairs, flows into operations, into nursing, pharmacy, several other verticals, and then flows into billing. But who is leading it? It's led by my colleague out here, Shobha. She leads it, and it was she who raised her hand saying, I lead the project. So the entire discharge process, which is very critical for the hospital to make every bed count, is led by a nursing leader and her teams. So I think it is the most important facet of the way the nursing leaders as well as P&L heads look at nursing as a function.
Thank you for putting that example out here. So yeah, for the nurses who are watching, yes, not everybody would know what EBITDA is all about, but it's worth going and checking what it's all about and seeing the relationship of how what you do, helps in the financial outcomes of the company. So thanks, Vijay, for explaining that. Let's move on to now the whole theme of the show, like allyship. What is true allyship? in nursing look like in action for you beyond all these appreciation posts, the Nurses Day celebrations, and all the ad that's come out? What do you think true nursing allyship in action looks like?
These celebrations matter, and I mean to say, you cannot take away celebrations or awards away from appreciations, away from the flavor of the way we are as human beings, right? We all need to be appreciated. But when we look at allyship and then really want to reflect on it, then I'll say that it really shows up in decisions, especially when you are extremely uncomfortable and you are being approached for situations where you need to respond, and that is where true character comes in, and the allyship comes in. It's about when a nurse wants to escalate something, or a nursing leader wants to escalate something, listening to it, fixing the unsafe situations at work, absorbing as much pressure on yourself rather than passing it on to your nursing fraternity. Great hostel services in the hospital, offering them a great platform. In care, we have commissioned a Florence Center, which is a combination of recreation zone, a library, and a stimulation lab, all together in one area. And such commitments, which are long term, are required. So that while at work, it demonstrate allyship. And I would at this stage appeal to other leaders that don't ask nurses to be strong. That's generally what I hear. It is the organization who has to be showing the strength to them in matters which matter, which really matter. So be a coach for the nursing leaders, for the young nurses, mid-level nurses. Try to get to them a lot of training in external interventions which are beyond nursing. Sometimes you only give them nursing training, but they need so many other trainings which strengthen their skills, and therefore you are bound to benefit bringing those trainings to them.
Yes, you know a lot of aspects over there when we were talking about. I did have a look at your the Florence Center. It's a beautiful piece there, and I'm sure nurses are making good use of it. And the simulation center is something which is quite required, and I'm glad that's looked at by the organization. So, between all that you said, what would be that one piece of advice you would give to other CEOs or leaders who are genuinely interested in supporting or advocating for nurses?
So, when a nursing leader walks up to you with a situation or question which has to be addressed with a deep conversation, provide time, undivided attention and time, and then address. Out of 10, 9 things are very small and it can be addressed immediately. Don't keep it lingering. One odd thing which is really big and which needs to be solved, solve it alongside the nursing leader. If you bring in transparency to the nursing leadership, then the entire nursing teams under the leader stands up, and then they demonstrate a character which is very different than a leader who talks down to a nursing leader. So that difference subtly, if you can bring in expressively, achieve it as a human behavior towards permanency, it will help.
Thank you for that. And yeah, I think there was a similar piece of advice when I had my first podcast for Nursing Allies, when I asked the person, Dr. Parag Nindani was my guest at that time. And I think he similarly hit that note that you need to spend time with your nursing head because they know what's going on exactly on the ground. 10 minutes of coffee or 20 minutes of coffee per day is going to resolve a lot of issues, when you spend time with the nursing head. So thank you for seconding that opinion, which was given by our nursing ally. So now we're going to shift our gear a bit. We did our long, elaborate questions and understand the perspective and understand how allyship is. Now we are going to go in a rapid fire mode, changing our gears.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah. So whatever first thing that sort of comes to your mind, probably, sometimes this is not a psychological test, but this is what psychologists do, whatever first thing comes to your mind, right? So let's begin then. One leadership lesson you learned from a nurse.
So this was way before, right, in Fortis. Huh? So I still remember that there was a nursing training head, and she was angry at me for something, and she was like, "Don't raise your voice. You need to help me raise awareness." And that has stuck. Her name was Vinisha, if I'm not mistaken, and she really said this to me on a particular occasion. And from them, I can't say I corrected myself all through, but I've been conscious about remembering this piece.
One thing you would never dare argue with the nurse about.
If some nursing leader at whatever level walks up to me and says something is not right, just zip up and really listen.
really listen. That is true. That is very, very true. And I'm again glad that you are seconding what the earlier guest said. But that is so true, isn't it? And it usually fixed a lot of issues, right? Right. Next question. If nurses walked into every room with the background music, what song would you play?
That gets me scratching. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, yeah, maybe this. I don't know whether you have heard the song. There is a song called "Here Comes the Sun" from the Beatles. It's an old
Mhm.
one, old track.
Yeah, yeah.
I would, try to exemplify the sun here, right? If you look at the sun, it is disciplined. It just appears every day, day in and day out, and is right there. Whether people observe it, take advantage of it or not, it's right there. It showers blessing on everybody, right? On earth, anything that is growing is because of the sun. And then it also smiles. It has its own way of bringing happiness to people. Many people feel depressed when they're not in the sun, right? And the regularity at which it is there, it showers the blessing, that assurance which comes in, you need to equate it to the nurses. So I would say whenever you see a nurse, you see "Here Comes the Sun" from the
That's
Beatles.
such a beautiful. I know that song. Yeah, Beatles is like whether you're old or young, you always hear a Beatle, isn't it? Yeah. So here comes the sun. Yeah, that's such a beautiful analogy, and you're
And
so
the lyrics are beautiful. If you go through it,
yes,
I think
yeah,
many of the other lyrics, which I cannot really state now, but all of the lyrics really matches to, if I were to do a nursing video in future, I would use this song.
beautiful. And I would wait for it, which it will. I'm sure you do a brilliant job with that. It's a beautiful piece, and you're very true. When the sun is not out, you really go crazy. Ask me. I'm in the UK. You don't see sun half of the time. So yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for aligning nurses with that analogy. Right. So next question: one non-clinical task nurses should never be doing.
Gossiping
That's oh god.
and also maybe finance.
Do you think that? But why do you
I'm
think?
also not a finance person, so don't get me
Right,
wrong. I mean to say I'm a marketing guy, right?
right,
So
right.
not in any sense otherwise.
Let's move on to the next one. One decision hospital leaders make that most impact nurse burnout.
Playing with the staffing ratios for
Yes.
P&L advantage.
Absolutely. I don't know why. The first axe that falls is the head count. Yes, the numbers are huge. You need nurses to run the hospital. But if you put axe on 10 nurses, it will be worth probably putting axe on one person who's earning higher and not doing the job than on 10 nurses. Yeah, that is something which usually happens. Yes. And one skill nurses must build to move into leadership roles.
So you have to look at it from two aspects. One, personally, if you look inward, it's balancing your temperament, right? So you need to have, so your attitude, your skills will matter least if you don't have a balanced temperament. But if you look external, then the only thing that matters most in today's world is communication. So unless you are able to gather the skills of communication, every platform requires a different communication. Here we are in a different mode. When we meet each other face to face, we are different. When we have to correspond with each other in writing, it's different. So all types of communication.
Right, right. I totally agree with that. Yes, that's far first most important lesson that everybody needs to sort of take. Thank you for that. And our last one. An assertive nursing head, what would you choose, right? An assertive nursing head who questions decisions or the one who supports every decision?
I'll say the latter one because the person who supports all the decisions is a better colleague to have. Because my style of working is I communicate more than necessary. My style is such that I take people into confidence, and therefore, for a personal style like this, I would appreciate as much more participation than questioning. But maybe for a different personality who's running a courtier, not involving a nursing leader in matters of importance, maybe a questioning nurse with a danda is.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yes, of course. Yes, 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 you rightly said. It depends on the style of leadership. You are a great ally of nurses, and I'm sure you think about those perspectives before you sort of take any decisions. So that was our last question. This brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for your honesty, your perspective, and with the calm disposition that you've you delivered the entire answers that I've asked about, and acknowledging, I think, most importantly, the true value that nurses bring, not just emotionally, but strategically, and the emerging roles that you're talking about. And I will be the most happiest to see those emerging roles coming out and, probably supporting and advocating for those. So, and you see conversations like this when we have, the nurses listen to all these things. They know that they're not just making an impact on the bedside, but they're somewhere at the center of healthcare, at the center of leadership, at the center of innovation and impact sort of that happens. So thank you for being a true ally. And also for everyone who's watching, whether are mostly nurses, remember, your work matters a lot. And like Biju said, your voice matters a lot. And your leadership matters a lot. So think about those emerging roles. Go on Biju's LinkedIn and check this particular piece that he has written on emerging roles in nursing. And I was massively moved by it, and I'm sure everybody else would be. Thank you so much, Biju, for coming as a guest on this show.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks a lot. Happy to have shared all views with you. Best luck with your series further. I will also watch all the people that you gather as allies for nurses. Thanks.